What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about diesel heaters in your RV. This has been a hot topic for the past couple years. Diesel heat is not something new to RVs. Your Class A motorhomes, your diesel pushers, some of your B vans have had hydronic heating systems similar to like your AquaHot, which is the most common. You also have the Oasis system and some other smaller systems that you'll find in B vans. But you haven't seen a whole lot of these guys, towables with furnaces that are powered by diesel. So recently there's been a little bit of a trend in installing diesel heaters. Now the most common one that I've seen, because they went viral, is going to be the Viver diesel heater like this one. And I have to tell you that after reviewing one myself, I bought one, had it sent to me, and did some testing with it. I wasn't real impressed, and I did have some concerns. And I've had a ton of questions, whether it be through my actual mobile RV service or through here on my platforms, about diesel heaters, their effectiveness, how to install one. So today, it's going to be a little bit of a long one. We are going to cover most of the pros, cons, things to think about before you just go buy a diesel heater, and not exactly a how-to, but trying to give you as much information as possible to make sure the decision is right for you and to maybe steer you in the right direction. So the most important thing we're going to talk about today is the compatibility of diesel heaters in your towable RV, whether it be a fifth wheel, travel trailer, Class A motorhome. We're going to talk about the doability of it and some food for thought. So we're going to go over to this Sprinter fifth wheel, mainly because it has a darker interior and it's not going to play with my camera too much. And we're going to talk a little bit about the heat system, how it's ducted through here, and how that's going to relate to your diesel heater. So in most of these fifth wheels, you are going to have floor vents. They're going to be going along the floor. And if you'll notice, they're usually in a straight line going across the coach. Here we run into another one. And if I were to stand at the back of the coach here, and we started with that floor vent and went all the way back, there is a duct underneath the floor that goes from front to back to heat the coach. And then there are usually some smaller ducts that you'll find in the bathroom. Now sometimes those are floor vents like this one. Sometimes you'll see them mounted on the wall there or a wall there. Those are usually not coming off of that straight duct through the floor. Those are actually often going to have a 4-inch round duct coming off of either the furnace or that rectangular duct going through the floor to go to some of those weird spots throughout the RV. And there's a reason that that's really important to understand, because your underbelly of your RV, where a lot of your plumbing and your tanks are, actually gets heated off of those small ducts. There's usually about an 1.5 inch duct, maybe a 2-inch one that will go into the underbelly to keep it just warm enough to not freeze. And all of those tie together and go back to the furnace. And I'm actually going to pop up a quick drawing for you here so that you can see how that works. So as you can see here, let's say our furnace is at one end. Typically it's actually closer to the middle. We'll say, for layman's terms here, that the furnace is at one end and it is pushing heat through the main duct, and it gets branched off to some of those smaller ducts I was talking about. As you can see here, this would be your bathroom vent. And then you may have the smaller one that goes off to the underbelly here. So we'll use this one as an example, as going off to the underbelly to heat the underbelly. So the heat is going to blow through that main duct and then go through those branches to heat the underbelly and some of the weird areas of the coach. Now yours may be set up somewhat more like this diagram, where you have the duct and then you have other 4-inch circular ducts or round ducts that go directly to the furnace. It's really all the same concept because they're all tied together. It just depends on how your manufacturer set it up. So we know the ducting system is important. It brings heat to various places in your RV to make sure it's evenly heated, and very importantly is heating the underbelly of your RV. Now this is important because going to supplemental heat, whether it be space heaters or diesel heaters, if you're not utilizing the ducting system, you're not actually heating the underbelly or some of those weird parts of your RV. And heating your underbelly can be one of the most important parts of it, because if you are in an area where you're using your heat and it's below freezing and your underbelly is not getting heated, you're going to deal with a ton of freezing issues, whether it be with the lines or your tanks, termination valves, and you don't want that. Now, a lot of the feedback that I've seen in forums, is people saying to tie a diesel heater into that existing system. Now, I understand that that can be done. So again, we'll do a brief diagram showing how that essentially would look. So we have our initial diagram, we have our ducts, and we have our furnace at one end. So again, for layman's terms, let's just say we're going to go ahead and put the diesel heater on the other end. Now, when the main furnace is on, it's going to work just like it should, and it's going to blow air through the ducts and do what it's supposed to do. But now you have this open end over here with this diesel heater, where some of the heat blowing from the original furnace may actually blow through your other heater, and now you're losing heat. Now this is important to understand because a lot of diesel heaters are very underpowered in the fan department compared to the big fan that's in your furnace, like your Suburban or Dometic in your RV. The blowers that are in these diesel heaters really can't keep up. So odds are what's going to happen, I guess I shouldn't say odds are because I've actually seen this happen, when you set up those dual furnaces, what ends up happening to the diesel heater is the main furnace ends up blowing through the diesel heater, which eventually causes the diesel heater to overheat. It's not actually removing heat from the heat exchanger, it's having more heat blown through it, so it either shuts down prematurely or it ends up overheating it. Now this can be solved with a check valve. A check valve being a valve that would go on both, like a flapper valve that's going to go on the main furnace as well as the diesel heater, so that if the diesel heater were on, the check valve would close on the other furnace, and that furnace would, the diesel heater would heat the coach, or vice versa. You wouldn't be able to run them both at the same time though, because we would go back to the previous issue we were talking about. So that's pretty much the main issue with that whole setup of tying it into your existing system. Now, on that note comes the next issue, very similar, is I've seen people who want to replace their furnace. They want to replace their Dometic or Suburban furnace with a diesel heater, which is possible. We're going to cover that more towards the end of the video when we get into the different types of diesel heaters. But most of the diesel heaters that you buy on the market today are about a third of the BTUs of your standard RV furnace. These diesel heaters from like Viver and some of these common ones you see, whether it be on TikTok Shop or like Amazon being advertised, they average about 9 to 12,000 BTUs. Whereas your furnace that comes in your RV, whether it be a Suburban or a Dometic, and there's a few others out there, the two most common being Suburban and Dometic, on average are about 35,000 BTU. So you would need about 3 of those Viver diesel heaters to equal what one of your Suburban or Dometic heaters is going to do. So keep that in mind. These people saying that this $120 heater is way better than your Suburban, it's simply not true. Numbers don't lie. A Suburban or a Dometic propane furnace is going to put about 3 times the amount of heat out that your everyday run-of-the-mill diesel heater is going to put out. There are some that will keep up. Again, we will get to that. Now, if you get into some smaller units like this Opus or this Coleman pop-up or a little Nobo, then yes, one of those diesel heaters may actually work out for you the way you want it to, because a lot of these aren't ducted the same. Those may actually have a furnace that just blows and heats the entire unit from one duct. That's actually what makes educational videos like this a little difficult sometimes, because there's so many variables across all these different RVs. But the most common place people want to put these diesel heaters is in these big fifth wheels. They need some supplemental heat because their furnace just isn't keeping up. You have a lot of square footage in some of these big massive fifth wheels that we have out here today. So the solution that I'm talking about today is mainly focused on these bigger fifth wheels, Class A's. With that being said, let me give you my insight on where I think diesel heaters, your standard everyday run-of-the-mill Amazon diesel heater, where they can really shine is with supplemental heat. Supplemental heat meaning that you're still utilizing your propane furnace, but you're using the diesel heater to assist that. Not tied into the ductwork anywhere, not tied into any part of the existing heating system. It is simply exactly what it is, supplemental heat, just like a space heater would. Now, the living room is a great place to want to add some extra heat, but the bedroom is ultimately where most people would like to see some more heat added. This is where you're sleeping at night. There's usually one duct in a bedroom, and sometimes it's the end of the run, meaning that the duct that's in the floor in this bedroom could be the absolute furthest away from the furnace, so the bedroom stays cold. Now that could be backwards too, and the living area that we were just in could easily be the coldest part of the RV, meaning it needs some additional heat. I mean, for instance, we're in the kitchen living area of this fifth wheel, and look how much square footage we have. let's focus on this area for now. Let's say we wanted to really help the furnace keep this area warm, because this is where everybody's doing their fun time. You're all hanging out, watching TV, having dinner. This is where you want to keep it warm. Let me give you my insight. Now, I'm in the back of the coach right now. I've got a nice little area here, and fun fact, there is a compartment directly below the floor here. The best option here would honestly be to run that single duct up to a floor vent here in the living room and have the diesel heater located in the space in the compartment just below. Now you have an extra duct all the way at the furthest end of the coach, supplying heat over here where it's typically the coldest. Now the other furnace can spend more time focusing on getting heat to other areas. Keep in mind, if you do add any kind of floor vent, any kind of vent at all in an RV, you want to make sure that it is in no way, shape, or form blowing directly at the thermostat, because that's going to cause short cycling and confuse the system into thinking it's warmer in here than it really is, causing the furnace to shut down prematurely. Now, if we go up in the front closet of the bedroom here, we can see we have some floor space in the closet and just outside the closet that we could also put a floor vent in. And the bedroom's a good choice because on most fifth wheels, you're going to have a big empty compartment up here that you shouldn't be storing things in anyway because of all the electronic components. So this is a perfect place to put the diesel heater, especially if you're prepped for a generator and not using it, because you'll usually already have a hole in the floor for your exhaust to come out. You already have access to power in here because your power distribution center is usually in here. There's a lot of good reasons. This is a great spot for a diesel heater. You can exhaust out just like a generator. You're not really worried about other things laying on top of it like your camping chairs, because again, that stuff shouldn't be in here on a fifth wheel. And with that setup, again, you're going to be giving the bedroom here supplemental heat. And yes, I turned the lights off because these LEDs in my camera do not get along. That's why we got out of the white unit. But the diesel heat is going to supplement heat in here where you're sleeping. Now, if you wanted to be super efficient and really keep it warm, say you're camping in some sub-zero temps, you could even shut the bedroom door and that diesel heater will keep it plenty warm in here. Now, the last scenario that I would recommend is the underbelly. Now, this is more for those of you who are really camping in the sub-zero temps. Those of you who are camping around me right now, and I'm still doing service calls, and it was negative 27 the other day, so there are people out there. This setup that I'm going to mention is the perfect setup for you guys, which would be using the diesel heater, a smaller one, again, one of the smaller Viver ones or standalone units, to strictly heat the underbelly. Now, I know you're thinking that might be a waste of heat, but the warmer of a, how do I put this in layman's terms? The more of a heated air blanket you can keep in your underbelly, the less of that will actually come into your RV. That's just simple thermodynamics. You can stop heat loss, and that is a huge one. You're also going to protect your tanks, you're going to protect your plumbing lines and everything that's in your underbelly. You can then cap off the line from the regular furnace that goes to the underbelly, giving you just a little bit more heat from your original furnace into your RV. So now essentially your furnace that was put in your RV from factory, its main job is just to heat this entire RV while the diesel heater is heating the underbelly. That would be achieved the same way with the last scenario we talked about to heat the bedroom. You can mount the diesel heater in that front compartment and duct it straight into the underbelly. Real quick, guys, before we continue, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my sponsors, Brooklyn Bedding. Brooklyn Bedding is your absolute best choice for comfort. And since we're talking about heat today, today's a perfect day to talk about comfort. And the best way to sleep comfortable in your RV is going to be with the RV mattress by Brooklyn Bedding. Those of you who have been following me for a while know I've been working with Brooklyn Bedding for a few years now, and it's for a good reason. We started off doing a quick review. I loved doing that review. It was one of the first product reviews I ever did, and I was super impressed. I was excited about the deal when I got it. I was more excited about it once I actually opened the mattress up and slept on it. Brooklyn Bedding makes some of the most comfortable mattresses. They're not a gimmick. They're not some Amazon deal. They are 100% a quality mattress. They ship from right here in the USA, in Arizona to be specific. They offer you a 120-night sleep trial, so you can try the thing before you even 100% commit to it. They're going to give you fast, free shipping. I think I had that thing on my doorstep in like 4 days or something. And all that stuff sounds absolutely great. What's even better is sleeping on one. We all know the mattresses they put in these RVs. I don't care what brand it is. It could be the brands that I talk about so highly. Their mattresses absolutely suck too. And that is why Brooklyn Bedding exists. Now, they're specifically RV mattress for a reason. They make all those funny sizes. If you've ever owned an RV or in the market for one, you should know these beds aren't exactly the size they're supposed to be. A queen's not really a queen, a king's not really a king. You have these weird bunk sizes. It doesn't matter, because if you go check out RV Mattress by Brooklyn Bedding, you will see that they have tons of different sizes of mattress, all those weird RV specific sizes. And not only that, they're going to have all different types of mattresses. Now, me personally, I got the Deer Foam Hybrid. It's got a spring support on the bottom with the memory foam on top. Absolutely love it. But they've got something for everybody, whether you just want a spring mattress or you want 100% memory foam. And again, the best part is you don't have to cut them. I've seen so many people cutting mattresses, from different retailers and stuff to save a few bucks, because they couldn't find that weird king, weird queen, weird bunk size they had in their RV. Again, head over to rvmattress.com and check out their selection. You'll be absolutely blown away by the amount of different mattresses they have and the sizes and types. And hey, because you guys are followers of mine, you guys are going to save. Brooklyn Bedding gives me a discount code of 30% off to offer to you guys. I'm going to link that down here at the bottom of the video. I'm going to put it in the comments. If you want to make it easy peasy though, head over to my website, thatrvtech.com, and I have an easy peasy link for you there. Make sure you use that code right here so that you can save on your next mattress. I promise you wouldn't be disappointed. You guys know I don't market you garbage, and I'm very careful about who I choose to work with. And I know I made a good choice working with RV Mattress by Brooklyn Bedding. All right, so we're back to the show. We'll leave that blooper in there for you guys. So we've got the different scenarios. We've got my input on how diesel heaters can really work in your RV. I think the only thing we didn't talk about as far as setup goes is the dual diesel heater setup. Now, the dual diesel heater setup, I've seen it done a couple times. I don't know if personally this is how I would do it, but I have seen some people have good luck. Now, we talked earlier about diesel heaters really not having the power to keep up with your regular furnace, and you'd need 2 or 3 of them to achieve that. So essentially what it is let's look at the duct system. It goes from one end of the coach to the other. Essentially it is having 2 of those diesel heaters, one in the front of the coach, one in the rear of the coach, and those 2 are working to heat the coach. But let's talk about some realistic options for either replacing your furnace or using these diesel heaters solely instead of trying to get them to work with your current propane furnace. Now, one of the main reasons I see people who want to get rid of the propane furnace and go with a diesel heater is simply because of cost. Propane can be really expensive, and one of my big arguments on that is, one, correct, you can rip through propane, especially in the dead of winter, and it can get really expensive. Propane is also not available everywhere, whereas if you have diesel, you can get it at any gas station. Not every gas station has propane, and if they do, it's usually an exchange system and not a fill. So you're going to spend more, and they're not going to be able to fill any of your bigger tanks. So diesel is a much better option on there as far as cost, storage, access. Diesel is a much better option there. Now, if you're in one of these bigger fifth wheels, especially if you have a toy hauler, which this one isn't, but let's use it as an example. A lot of the toy haulers also have fuel tanks on them because they're designed to fill your toys up. So some of these RVs have 40, 50-gallon fuel tanks underneath them that aren't being utilized, because I'll be honest, I know a ton of people who have these fifth wheels and they really only bought them for the rear deck or the extra garage. They don't even have toys to put in them. They bought the toy hauler because that's what worked for them. Now, even if you don't have a toy hauler and you have a standard fifth wheel like this, you can still absolutely add an Underbelly fuel tank. They sell them, they're readily available, they're not that difficult to install, and you can have 40 to 50 gallons, sometimes even more, fuel on hand. Now, sometimes with propane, you're getting a refill every couple of days. On average, some of these diesel heaters I've tested, I got, of course, running indoors where we weren't super cold, I got a little over 12 hours off of a gallon with that thing just running. Now, if you had 50, 60 gallons, that's 50, 60 days worth of heat potentially. You know, obviously there's a lot of factors there, but something to consider is it's much easier to get your hands on the fuel source needed for your heat, and you can store it in bulk amounts, and it's much more easily accessible. So diesel heat really has a place in RVs. It has had a place, and that's where I think we need to stop focusing so much on these little guys, and focus on some of the real systems out there, because it does have potential. It is one of the buy once, cry once type of deals. Spend the right money and get the right product. So by now, I'm sure you know how I feel about these ones. I think they're great. I think they're a standalone, great little standalone unit. I think they'd be great for some shed heat. Again, maybe heating your underbelly, supplemental heat in a bedroom or a living room. I really think that they are a great solution for that, but they're oversold a little bit as being like a replacement heater for your RV. But luckily for you, there are some products that actually exist that will 100% replace the heating system in here using diesel heat. On your Highline diesel pushers, some of your B vans, you'll see systems again like AquaHot, Oasis, and again, there are some smaller variations out there, but AquaHot and Oasis being two of the most common ones. But that system in an RV, it's a little wild. One, an AquaHot system can cost you well over $10,000. That's absolutely insane. It probably costs more than some RVs that you'd be installing it in, so it doesn't make any sense. But there are additional options that do the same things an AquaHot does on a smaller scale. So I'm going to talk today about my pick of what, if you're going to spend the money to go diesel heat, you want to go big, go home, or go home, you're one of those guys like me, my absolute best recommendation is going to be something like a Truma Combi here. A Truma Combi is not just a furnace though. A Truma Combi is also going to be your water heater. Same thing an AquaHot hydronic heating system does. That same heating process is going to heat your water as well as heat the air and raise the temperature within your coach. Again, an AquaHot being too big, the Truma Combi is smaller. It's actually what you'll find in some B vans. I've seen it in a Class C, so that one bounces around a little bit. It's not very well known in the industry though. Not a lot of people talk about it because they're not in a lot of these mass-produced RVs, but you could very easily add one. I guess I shouldn't say easily, but it can be done without any like major serious modification. But in light of being transparent, I can't pretend that that's the only option. There are some diesel heaters, just like the old Weaver, that actually have a name for themselves, and they've been around for a long time. It's nothing new. The trucking industry, buses, a lot of them have been using diesel heat for a long time. It's nothing new, so there are quality products out there. Anything out there with a Webesto, however you want to pronounce it, burner on it, it is going to be a prime product as far as diesel heating. Make sure you pay attention to those BTUs though, because they do range from small to big. Those companies are going to have an option for everybody because a small semi-cab doesn't need 35,000 BTUs. So look into anything that has a Webesto burner on it. I'm going to kill this name because that's what I'm good at, but I'll put it up here. Eberspacher. They make some great products, and just as an example here, we'll do a little comparison. You have your Weaver diesel heater here, and look at our price, okay? And then we have our Eberspacher, am I saying that right? Look at the price on that one. So clearly a difference in price, but it is definitely one of those you get what you pay for situations. Now, I've done tests with a few of the different ones. Most of them are just kind of while I'm out in the field actually getting to see these things. I might eventually actually do a comparison test. Again, if we're just trying to add some supplemental heat, absolutely go with the little Weaver. If you're trying to replace the heat in your coach, you're going to want to go with either a nicer diesel heater or a actual RV diesel heat and water setup. Those are going to be your real options. I'm telling you from personal experience because I've done the same thing with my trailer. I've talked to people who have set theirs up and they're calling me to ask them how to make it better. So I may have some more content on that coming soon where we could actually do some actual comparisons and get numbers. But remember, those numbers are available to you. When purchasing these heaters, remember that the specs are usually on there. Now, the off-brands, I'll be honest with you, and most people know, they inflate their numbers quite a bit. name brands, good quality products, those numbers are usually true, and they're actually usually a little bit undersold. So read the specs, make sure you know what you're getting. Again, for reference, your typical propane furnace, which is the same in this Class A bus as it would be in one of those little trailers I showed you, it's about 35,000 BTU. When doing that math, or trying to consider what type of heater you're going to get, consider the living space that you're trying to heat. If you're in a little pop-up, yeah, again, the small diesel heater is going to be just fine for you. If you're in a giant fifth wheel or a big bus, you're going to want to reconsider that. Funny thing is, they put the same furnaces in them either way, so that's why the heat is usually pretty good in something like this, and in the Class A is usually where you're looking for that supplemental heat, because they're using the same components throughout the industry, big or small. There are some, I'm not going to lie, there are some slight variations between models, but they really all have the same performance. If you have any questions, insights, or ideas about how we could further the investigation on diesel heat and how to change the heating in RVs from propane to diesel, leave it in the comments below. I'm always looking for feedback, good or bad. I'm always looking for it, guys. And if you guys want to see more RV tech tips, tricks, and even some tours in RVs like these ones, make sure you guys are pressing that subscribe button.